One of my favorite Bollywood films of all time is a movie called Laksh, and it's played by Hrithik Roshan, who is this soft, spoiled, super lazy, and just overall aimless kid who just graduated high school. And he doesn't really know what to do for the rest of his life. And he's at an age now where everyone keeps asking him, what is it you want to do in life? What do you want to be? And there's a term for it, it's called Laksh, which loosely translates to what's your objective in life? And he really just has no idea. He has no clue. He has no opinions or thoughts of his own, and he's just always confused. There's a scene where he's super upset and he's venting to his girlfriend that he's tired of having to answer this question all the time because he doesn't have an answer. And he breaks into like this 10-minute dance sequence where he goes around asking people why he's like this, why he doesn't answer, but that's just Bollywood being Bollywood. See, this movie is categorized as a coming-of-age film, but it's a bit more than that. At least I think so. In the first half of the film, you see this scared, lonely, confused boy, but by the end of the film, you can see it in Hrithik's eyes. He's not just an adult, he's a man. This got me thinking, what does it really mean to be classically masculine? Masculinity in its truest sense. Because all videos on YouTube, online articles, they point in one direction. That is, masculinity is performative. In essence, what you wear, how you look, and the topics and the knowledge and the things you speak on, all that performance is what is masculinity. So you'll hear all the time, wearing a leather jacket, wear boots, wear tobacco fragrance, notch lapel versus peak lapel, grow a beard, get muscular. That's masculinity. Another aspect is knowledge and topics. So appreciating whiskey, how to fix a tire, how to kill an animal with your bare hands, how to survive in the wild, how to drive a manual stick shift, understanding chivalry and manners. Those are another aspect of masculinity. But all these suffer from defining what is classical masculinity. Because if it is all just what I mentioned earlier, the suite of behaviors, then masculinity is nothing but a performance. After watching Laksh and doing a lot more of my own research, I've come up with a different take on this question. What it means to be classically masculine comes down to 4 simple principles, and they have nothing to do with what you say, how you look, or what topics you know. So if you want to know what steps to actually take to be a man in the truest sense of its word, stick around because I'm sure these 4 principles will help guide you. Principle 1 is your look is absolutely irrelevant. See, I've never been the most outwardly masculine guy. I don't do a lot of manly man things. I was that guy in high school who was putting avocado facial masks on, whitening my teeth, getting my eyebrows threaded, and I would never in a million years use a 4-in-1 shampoo. I despise that shit. Like, I don't understand how you can use the same body wash for your face and your hair. I mean, either way, clearly, I'm not the guy smoking cigars and killing animals with my bare hands. But because of this insecurity of mine, because I was doing all these things, it made me feel like I'd always overcorrect from the masculinity aspect. So I was always going down rabbit holes trying to understand what outfits can I wear, growing a beard, getting muscles, what can I do to look more masculine from, just the visual economy we live in today. But during my research, this led me down a very interesting analysis. Because let's take men in the army, for example. They're essentially the benchmark of masculinity, right? I mean, for a living, they kill shit, deal with grenades, literally are living in the wild, and more so than all of that, they're very stoic. So we agree that army men are essentially the benchmark of masculinity, right? But what's the first thing they do when they put you in the army in training? They shave your hair, they get rid of any facial hair, they take all your outfits, throw them in the garbage and give you one uniform, and they also don't let you have a lot of conversational topics because you're limited to saying what you can say. So all the things that performatively make you a man in our society, your looks, your hair, this and that, is quite literally stripped away. And it's not even a variable, it's not even a topic of discussion because all that stuff is gone immediately as they set foot day 1 on the army base. So us here talking about what cologne to wear, this or that, is totally a moot point because none of those things matter at the end of the day. And in contrast, this is all really different than the society, the visual economy we live in currently today. Because today's world tells you if you have bigger muscles, you're more masculine. Having more defined abs, or understanding the difference between a Goodyear well-stitched boot and a Blake stitched boot, or knowing how to cook a mean grilled steak. Those are all the things that make you a man. And if you can even post those on Instagram, that makes you look more manly, right? But I'd go as far as to say that benching more and trying to get bigger pecs doesn't make you more masculine. And in fact, it's the opposite. It makes you more feminine because you're focusing too much on the way you look. And as we talked about earlier, focusing on the way you look is absolutely irrelevant if we're taking army men as the benchmark of masculinity. As long as you're focused on yourself, you will never be a man in the truest sense of the definition. Instead, I want you to try to surrender yourself to something greater or bigger than yourself. And this doesn't have to mean in a religious sense whatsoever. It can mean surrendering yourself to acting, rock and roll, to your nation, to your family, to being a software engineer, to your schoolwork, anything that is bigger than yourself. Because by focusing on a mission that's bigger than you, you're able to get out of the mindset where you think this whole world revolves around you and your suede leather jacket and how much you can squat. Because at the end of the day, life is more than that, and you have to seek it out if you want to get out of your head and do something and impact the world in a great way. Principle 2, life has to fuck you. If you don't have an impetus to change, you never will. And you'll have this unfounded confidence that doesn't come from any real struggle. Life literally has to knock you down, break you, and fuck you so hard that you have no choice but to change, but to transform. And the only way out is through. The Stoic philosophers have a great saying for this, and it's a great book by Ryan Holiday. It's called The Obstacle is the Way. But in the truest sense, that's what we're saying here. This problem you're facing becomes the way because you have to go through it in order to come out on the other side as a man. See, when bad things happen to us, at least my natural instinct is to blame our boss, our economy, politicians, everything you can't control. And then ultimately we write ourselves off as failures or the task was impossible in the first place. When really the only thing at fault always was our attitude and our approach. But when you hit that rock bottom moment, the one that makes you question everything in life and that is bigger than all the rest, it forces you to finally take responsibility for everything that's happening in your life, good or bad. Because what happens before then is we keep blaming others. And when we blame others or other things or situations that we have no control over, it puts power in their hands. And when we put power in their hands, we can't do anything about it. We can't change ourselves because they hold all the power. In NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, we call this being above the line or below the line. And when I used to work with clients, this was the first thing I used to do in life coaching, where above the line is you take responsibility for everything that's ever happened to you, good or bad. You take ownership, responsibility, you have self-discipline, and you respect yourself. And below the line is constantly thinking and worrying about others and that they did this and they did that and I can't do this and I had a terrible childhood so I became the way I am. But once you finally accept and take responsibility for everything you have, and then you can bring the power to yourself because then you can at least start from a place of change because now you control your situation, you control your reality of life, and now you can move forward in a direction. See, growing up, I was always called Mr. Potential. I was told I have a lot of talent. And if I just applied myself or tried hard enough, or as a lot of my teachers and all will love to say, if you just set your mind to something, you'll be so successful. I don't know. I guess I didn't see that way. I didn't really try hard in school and I never really amounted to much because by the time I got to college, all I did was just party, drink, have fun, and go out and club. Now, this went on for a while and I was having a lot of fun and I was kind of making my grades, but at some point it all caught up to me when I was 21, when after a crazy night out, I ended up in the ER because I thought I was having a heart attack. Instead, I actually had a panic attack. And this started my struggle with mental health, where for many, many years after that, I was living in fear. I was walking in eggshells. I was constantly nervous and worried I'm gonna have another panic attack. And this panic attack, panic disorder, anxiety disorder, whatever you wanna call it, controlled my life. I literally felt like a prisoner of my own mind for the longest time. And it was scary, man. I don't know why, but I always was just in constant fear of fear, in a sense, in a Burger King line or at home or at dinner or with friends. It could happen at anywhere at any time. And this made me start to really I couldn't deal with life. Everything sucked. I didn't know how to get out of it. I was like, I don't know what's going on. And this constant thought kept coming in my head. I kept thinking, why me? Why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? It was this like pity for myself almost that I have, even when I look back on myself at that moment. And it wasn't till just last year that I got off all the medications I was on. And it was a really like a big moment for me because I was finally coming on to the other end of this entire episode of my life. And sure, those changing my habits, my environment, partying less, all helped. But the one thing that made the biggest impact in me overcoming this mental health challenge was my mindset, where I shifted my mindset from being scared of anxiety and panic attacks to instead not just embracing it, but almost seeking it out. I know it's kind of psychotic when you think about it that way, but literally, when I used to feel anxiety rushing up, I used to say, oh, no, 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 like I'm freaking out, it's gonna happen, I don't want it to happen, oh my gosh, no, no, I can't have it happening, and I've been so long without panic attack happening. And instead, I changed my mindset to be like, oh, what's up, anxiety? I haven't met you in a long time. That's it? That's all you got for me? Bring it on, like, make me feel something. Like, I want you to give me the worst panic attack you possibly ever had. And what's crazy is this mindset of not being scared of this, like, thing, this creature, and instead embracing it, loving it, hugging it, almost asking it like, yo, that's all you got? It's nails that were dug into me of fear slowly started to release itself. And I noticed that this anxiety that controlled my life also started to disappear with it. Because what I noticed and realized is I always felt like there was this monster under my bed, right? And at any point it's just gonna come out and scare me and jump on me. But what is more powerful than going and getting on your knees down under your bed, finding the monster, looking it right at its eyes, and smiling? And that's really all it took. It was that. And I wouldn't have had that happen to me if life hadn't fucked me over so hard in the first place with this incident. And this is the kind of transformation that really builds character. And it only happens when your back's against the wall and there's nothing you can do and the only way out is through. And this is what we call your laksh. A laksh is nothing but an objective you have to overcome at any cost. Something you do for yourself to prove for yourself that you can do it. And this is not for anyone. You're not doing this to appease anyone. This is only for you because you need to do it in order to move on. See, some things are always going to be in your control and some are not going to be in your control, but we can't play the victim in any situation. There's a reason why responsibility is called response-ability. You can write it in both ways, right? So that's a good mnemonic to remember, that whenever you feel stuck, whenever you feel things aren't going your way, instead of playing victim, choose to be a leader of life, grab life by the balls and take responsibility, which means to pretty much just act by taking this response and showing your ability that you can do that and move on and make this laksh something bigger than yourself and overcome it. Principle 3 is respecting your own decisions. We've all heard this phrase being tossed around that I'm a man of my word. And there's a reason this phrase has been going down for hundreds of years in history. And that's because our ancestors used to use people being the man of the word as a reason to trust someone or respect someone. Because someone who keeps their promises to themselves and to others is a trustworthy person. So this was a really important character trait to have back in the day. And if you're someone who can't even fulfill your own promises, people wouldn't respect you, because how would you help work on their promises with them? Because being a man is saying you're going to do something. And even when you don't feel like it, doing it anyway, because you said you were going to do it in the first place. See, there's never going to be a perfect time or place to do 3 hours of deep work, to go to the gym, to go work out, or to take a cold shower. There's never going to be a perfect time to do that. But the true essence of masculinity is doing that anyway and following through on what you said because you made a vow with yourself. And there's something very masculine about making a vow with yourself and then following through and doing it, even if you don't feel like it, doing it anyway. And no matter what happens, keep doing it and doing it and doing it. What happens is over time, you start to build this self-confidence that you are someone who can do difficult things. You are someone who can follow through on their own word. And that self-confidence is such an incredible trait, because I swear, man, just watch that self-confidence seep into other areas of your life and you'll unlock remarkable doors that you never thought were even open in the first place. David Goggins has this concept called the personal cookie jar, which is essentially a way to hijack your brain and overtake its self-talk in order to propel you for success. Especially when things are getting difficult, that's the time to use the cookie jar. Because I always thought about this, but imagine you're running a marathon and, halfway through, you look at your watch and you're like, bro, my legs are tired, I'm exhausted, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Damn, how long has it been? And you look down and you're like, shoot, I have 12 more freaking miles to run? Holy crap. And what happens when that happens? Your self-talk kicks in, right? Oh, don't worry, Sid, you already did so well, you can stop now. Or, hey man, I think you should stop. I don't think you have it in you to do anymore. Or, hey, and sometimes you get crazy thoughts like this one, right? If you don't stop, you're gonna permanently hurt your foot. You should totally stop right now. Basically, you have a string of self-talk that's telling you to quit when the going gets tough. And this type of self-talk is not just prevalent in physical situations, but emotional, mental, spiritual, at work, in relationships. It comes in all aspects of life, because what your body is doing, it's a self-defense mechanism machine. Your body's always trying to help you avoid pain and to tell you things are impossible and to constantly remind you that so that you don't suffer. That's the whole point of it. But a lot of what we do feels like suffering, even if it's not a real tiger running after us. So that's why your body is always trying to protect itself and go to hibernation mode, telling you to quit when you have a lot more in the tank left. So the cookie jar is Goggins' way of taking control of your thought process, especially in difficult situations. Each cookie is a metaphor for a memory of when you did in a task that was impossible at the time, or you have some achievement, or you ever overcame some minor obstacle, or maybe you were studying as a kid and now you don't anymore.
The cookie jar is something I invented. My cookie jar has every single failure and success of my life, something I overcame.
So each cookie represents one of those parts of your life. And this jar is almost like a personal trophy room of all the achievements you have had, all the times you said you quit but you didn't and you succeeded anyway, all bundled into a metaphorical jar. And by taking inventory of all these moments, you can start to bank up these cookies as an energy source to help you succeed whenever the time gets tough. And this energy can give you bursts of positive reinforcement when the only thing you hear in your mind is negative reinforcement. So what Goggins would do is when he is on that 50th mile and he realized he has another 50 miles to run, because that guy's just out of this world, right? He would dip into his cookie jar and take a bite of a memory that made him feel like a badass.
I will, in my mind, reach into my cookie jar. Well, you got called nigger your whole life, and you're now the only person in history to do this, and this.
And by building this collection over time, for 50 more miles he had to run, he constantly kept having bites of those cookies. And that gave him the energy to succeed, to know that he is someone who can do it. He is someone who makes vows to himself and follows through. And he's someone who knows when the going gets tough. He's done it in the past before. He will do it anyway and do it again today, that day, in the heat of battle.
You have to remind yourself of how badass you really are.
So the best way to start is by following through on just minor promises with yourself. This can maybe be opening up that textbook that you've been procrastinating for a while because that test sounds insane. Or it could be putting the fork down earlier at dinner because you're trying to lose weight. And over time, these small promises will stack into big ones and build that unshakable self-confidence in yourself. Principle 4, run towards, not away. The Latin root for the definition of courage is to act in the presence of fear. And in its most honorable, truest sense, spanning millions of years, whenever humans started stepping his foot on this earth, men have been synonymous. The trait of masculinity has been synonymous with courage. That is undebatable. And courage is quite literally to just run towards something and not to run away from it, even when it is scary. And it doesn't have to mean the physical sense. Courage doesn't mean just running into battle or fighting a tiger or some shit like that. There's a lot of instances in today's life where courage comes up that we run away from. For example, courage can be loving someone and forgiving someone even when it's hard. And courage can also be apologizing to someone and taking responsibility even when it's not entirely your fault. Courage can obviously also be believing in something that is worth dying for. And courage can be standing up for the right reason or for the right person. And we talk a lot about courage in society as this like big word. But we always forget at this most basic level, courage is nothing but just taking action in one direction. Whether that's approaching someone you're intimidated by, getting that job offer by going for the interview that you didn't think was possible, or courage could literally mean writing the first page of your book that you want published. It's as simple as that sometimes. And just because the conditions are not exactly to your liking doesn't mean you get a pass. Courage is stepping with momentum in the path to make it happen. It's by creating the situation for yourself right now without any hesitation. And it starts by getting up and getting started and running towards the problem. One of my favorite books of all time is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And man, if you read that book, first of all, don't take it on the beach. That's what I did. I read it as a beach book. It's not a beach book. It's a book you read quietly in your room by yourself because it's about this man who survives the Holocaust. And it's one of the most brutal stories you'll hear. It really rips your heart because you realize how good you have it. But this man, Viktor Frankl, he has been through all sorts of torture. He's been through all sorts of terrible, terrible things against humanity happening to him and people in his camp. And one of the things he mentions as he writes in this book is everything can be taken away from you. Everything, your family, your clothes, your food, everything in life can be taken away from you. But the one thing, no matter if you're in the Holocaust or here or now, that cannot be taken away from you, the last of man's freedom, is this. Every situation has a stimulus and then has a response, how you respond to that stimulus. But what we don't realize is there's a gap in between the stimulus and response in where we can choose how to respond. And that is one of man's last freedoms. That anytime there's a stimulus and response, we can choose how we get to respond in that circumstance. Things will happen to you and you can choose to respond in a way that you smile, even though something terrible is happening to you. For example, in my situation with anxiety, stimulus is I start feeling random anxiety come out of nowhere. My response was usually like, oh shit, no, I'm freaking out. Response is panic attack. Instead, stimulus, I start feeling anxiety or nervous or something like that. Response is, bring it on, anxiety. Bro, that's all you got? Response is panic kind of just disappears because I'm not scared of it anymore. So stop pretending whatever you're going through is somehow special or unfair. Whatever trouble you're having, no matter how difficult, is not some unique misfortune picked out especially for you. It just is what it is. It's neither good or bad. It is what you make of it. And the only question you should ask when something like this happens is, how will you respond? Will you run toward or will you run away? Because that's what it comes down to. And that's it, guys. If you made it this far into the video, I want to say thank you so much for watching. I really hope you got some value from this video. And if you do feel like you did, please go ahead and subscribe. Give me one of these thumbs ups. They seriously do help. And hit the notifications bell so when you get my next video, you're going to get it right to you in your newsfeed, because I don't think my videos are showing up for everyone. I don't know why, but I'm putting a lot of effort, as you can see, into researching, analyzing, putting thoughtful scripts together. So my whole goal is to impart some of my wisdom onto you and to help you lead your life in a better, more productive, healthier, happier way. And if you feel inspired to do so, let me know in the comments down below. From this list, what is the one principle you found most interesting? And lastly, if you're serious about self-improvement, which I'm assuming you are since you made it this far into the video, I want to give you an amazing opportunity. If you're ready to close that gap between who you currently are and who you're capable of being, and once and for all, start moving with momentum and living the life that you know you're meant to be living, I want you to check out my course, Success Formula, down below. It's linked in the description box. And trust me, it's something I put all my time, energy, and concentration in. From 50+ books I read, we've already had a lot of testimonials of how many people have had an incredible transformation throughout that process, and it's all in under 4 weeks. So go ahead and click the link in the description box below. And guys, stay subscribed because I'm going to see you all in the next one. Take care.